My phone screen throws an eerie blue glow across my face. At 2:17 a.m., I squint at the flood of text messages lighting up my otherwise dark Chicago apartment. May, please call us. It's urgent. May, where are you? This is an emergency. Call now. My hands tremble as I scroll through the increasingly frantic messages from my parents. The contrast between my meticulously arranged condo, clean lines, carefully chosen furniture, and the chaotic digital panic on my screen feels jarring. I've worked too hard for this life. This sanctuary away from their drama. Then a news alert pops up with Tyler's mugshot. My stomach drops. My golden boy brother stares back at me with bloodshot eyes and that same half smirk that always worked on our parents. The smirk that said he knew he'd be rescued no matter what. The phone vibrates in my palm. I answer before I can talk myself out of it. May, please, you have to help him. Mom's voice breaks through, high-pitched and frantic. What's happening? I ask, though I already know. Dad's voice cuts in, having grabbed the phone. Tyler's been arrested. They're saying he stole millions from investors. It's all lies, a misunderstanding. I stand and walk to my window, gazing out at Chicago's glittering skyline. What exactly is he charged with? Wire fraud, embezzlement, they're claiming $2.5 million. His voice trembles in a way I've never heard before. The FBI is involved. You're a lawyer. You can fix this. Mom sobs in the background. I press my forehead to the cool glass. I'm a corporate finance attorney, not a criminal defense lawyer. But you know people, Dad insists. This is your brother we're talking about. My brother? The same brother they moved heaven and earth for while I scraped by. The memory surfaces unbidden. 6 months ago, standing in this very spot, phone pressed to my ear, voice steady despite my desperation. The insurance won't cover all the water damage, I had explained to them. I need somewhere to stay while they repair the condo. Just a loan until the claim processes, $12,000 would cover temporary housing. Mom's voice had been cool, detached. We'd love to help, but we just can't right now. You understand? And later, her parting shot, if you had focused on being a wife instead of a lawyer, you wouldn't be dealing with this alone. Caleb would have handled it, as if my ex-husband's affair with my colleague was somehow my fault for working too hard. I move to my laptop. Open Facebook. The evidence stares back at me. Photos of Mom and Dad in Florida with Tyler. The timestamp. 2 days after they claimed they couldn't help me. Their smiling faces on a chartered fishing boat. The caption celebrating Tyler's new business venture. The $60,000 they gave him for his bar. The same bar now revealed as the front for his fraud scheme. I shut the laptop with a quiet click. For 33 years, I've watched them drop everything for Tyler while I stood in the shadows. The state piano competition they missed for his baseball game. My law school graduation they left early because Tyler had a situation. Every achievement dismissed. Every need minimized. May, are you still there? Dad's voice cuts through my thoughts. I pace my apartment, attorney brain already calculating wire fraud, $2.5 million, federal charges, potential sentences. I'll come tomorrow, I hear myself say. Oh, thank God, Mom breathes. We knew you'd help. Tyler always said you'd come through if things got bad. Rage bubbles up, surprising me with its intensity. They haven't asked about my life, my work, or whether I can even leave. Just the assumption I'll drop everything again for their golden son. I haven't said I'll help yet, I clarify, keeping my voice cool. I said I'll come. We'll discuss options when I get there. But that's all I can promise right now. I end the call before they can protest. Dawn breaks as I close my suitcase, my face set with resolve. The woman in the mirror looks different somehow. Still me, but with something harder in her eyes. I've spent my life trying to earn a fraction of the love they freely gave Tyler. No more. I'll go to Hartford, but this time it will be on my terms. If they want my help, they'll have to face some uncomfortable truths, starting with the fact that their golden son isn't just tarnished. He's criminal, and I'm done being the afterthought. The next morning, My childhood home in Hartford looms before me like a museum dedicated to Tyler Evans. I stand frozen in the entryway, surrounded by a gallery of his life. Baseball trophies gleam from every shelf. Photos chronicle his rise from chubby-cheeked toddler to handsome young entrepreneur. Conspicuously absent. Evidence I ever existed. May. Thank God you're here. Mom rushes toward me, arms outstretched, then stops short of an actual embrace. Her eyes are red-rimmed, makeup-free. Dad hovers behind her, looking a decade older than when I last saw him. I set my suitcase down with a deliberate thud. Where are the case documents? In the dining room, Dad says. But first we need to tell you what we've done. The dining room table holds the answer. Papers spread across its oak surface like a crime scene. Bank statements. Court filings. A property deed marked with a bright yellow post-it for Tyler's bail. You put up the house. My voice sounds distant, even to my own ears. Mom wrings her hands. $600,000. The judge set bail this morning. Jesus Christ. I drop into a chair, scanning documents with growing disbelief. Wire transfers, shell companies, investor lists. The money trail is painfully obvious. Your brother made some poor decisions, Dad says, but he's not a criminal. I hold up a bank statement. This shows systematic fraud over 18 months. That's not a poor decision. That's a felony. He was desperate, Mom whispers. His business was failing. A notation catches my eye. A transfer from my parents' account to Tyler's bar 4 months ago. Not the $60,000 I'd known about. An additional $45,000 you knew. I look up sharply. You suspected something was off with his finances months ago. The guilty looks they exchange confirm it. I push back from the table and drift toward the living room, instinctively to the mantel. My law school graduation photo is gone from its spot. In its place, a framed article about Tyler's bar opening. We needed space for newer photos, Mom says quietly behind me. My phone buzzes. Lucas. I step onto the porch for privacy. How bad is it? His voice, steady and warm, cuts through the hours of family tension. They used their house for bail. They knew about the money problems months ago and never told me. And now it feels like I've been erased from the family history. I'm sorry, May. His voice carries empathy without pity. Remember your boundaries. You don't owe them a rescue, I know. I watch a neighbor walk his dog across the street. The normalcy feels unreal. How's your surgery schedule? Packed. But I can fly out this weekend if you need me. Unlike my parents, Lucas never makes me ask twice. I'll let you know. Love you too. Stay strong. I make another call. To Victoria Chen, my mentor at the firm. Her advice is as sharp as ever. Don't represent him. Refer him to a criminal attorney. Keep your distance. Back inside, I find my parents hunched at the kitchen counter, whispering. They straighten when I enter, like guilty teenagers. The prosecutor called, Dad mutters. Tyler's first hearing is Tuesday. If he violates bail, you'll lose the house. I lean against the doorway. You understand that? Mom nods miserably. We had no choice. And your retirement savings? Dad looks away. Most of it went to his past ventures. The weight of their sacrifice for Tyler crashes over me. Decades of favoritism leaving them vulnerable to his manipulation. I think of my own careful planning. The emergency fund I built after they refused to help me. The irony stings. A text pings from the prosecutor's office confirming tomorrow's jail visit. I stand taller. I've made some decisions. Their eyes brighten with painful hope. I'll recommend a strong defense attorney. I won't give you money. And all of us, including Tyler, will go to family therapy. Mom's expression crumbles. After everything we've done for you, what exactly have you done for me that compares to what you've done for Tyler? The question lingers like smoke. Dad's face burns, then fades into resignation. We don't have much choice, do we? You've always had choices. You just keep making the wrong ones. I turn toward the stairs. I need to prepare for tomorrow's jail visit. My dad calls after me. He's still your brother. I pause, not turning around. Yes, he is, and that's the only reason I'm here. In my childhood bedroom, preserved like a high school time capsule, I spread my notes across the twin bed. The prosecutorial strategy is clear, the evidence substantial. The best outcome for Tyler will be a plea deal, but it will still mean prison time. I close my notepad and stare at the ceiling, the same ceiling I'd gazed at as a teenager planning my escape from Tyler's shadow. The anger I've carried for decades has crystallized into something harder, cleaner. Tomorrow I'll face my golden brother in his tarnished reality. For the first time in our lives, I'll be the one holding all the cards. The next day, after meeting with the prosecutor, I go to the jail to visit my brother. The county jail's visiting room assaults my senses before I even sit down. The walls are institutional beige, pockmarked with decades of scuffs and mysterious stains. Overhead fluorescent lights buzz with an irritating persistence, casting everyone in a sickly pallor. Even the guards look unwell. I shift on the metal chair, its coldness seeping through my skirt despite the September heat outside. A security door clangs open at the far end of the row, a visitation cubicle. The sound echoes through the cavernous space, mingling with distant shouts and the constant jingle of keys. The correctional officer nods toward me, his expression professionally blank. "Visitor for Evans," he calls out, voice flat with routine. I straighten, forcing the familiar courtroom posture, shoulders back, chin level, face composed. The file folder in front of me contains pages I've already memorized: bank statements, forged documents, investor complaints. My fingers briefly tremble against the manila surface before I still them. Tyler appears in the doorway, and for a moment I barely recognize him. The orange jumpsuit hangs loose on his frame, making him look smaller somehow. His usually styled hair falls limply across his forehead and stubble darkens his jaw, but as he approaches, his trademark smirk slides into place. The same expression he wore at 16 when he got caught stealing Dad's car, and when he'd borrowed my credit card number for an online gambling site. He drops into the seat across from me. The plexiglass between us is scratched so thoroughly it distorts his features. His eyes are bloodshot but still carry that familiar cockiness. His gaze meets mine. "So, big sister lawyer finally shows up," he drawls, leaning back as if we're meeting for coffee instead of in a county jail. "Took you long enough?" I don't answer right away. Instead, I open the folder with deliberate slowness. The officer stands at attention near the wall, watching with practiced indifference. "You look terrible," I finally say, voice neutral. Tyler snorts. "Not all of us get to sleep in our $1,000 sheets in our fancy Chicago condos," he says, leaning forward, eyes narrowing. "You've got it all, haven't you? Career, money, a home that wasn't underwater last year. What else could you possibly want?" The jab about my flooded condo lands exactly as intended. Heat rises in my cheeks, but I keep my expression neutral, the same way I would in court against opposing counsel. "Let's talk about your situation," I say, tapping the folder. "Wire fraud, embezzlement, $2.5 million missing from investor accounts." I slide a document toward the glass, including $850,000 from the Hendersons' retirement fund. Mom and Dad's neighbors for 20 years. The same people who brought casseroles when Mom had her hip surgery. Tyler's smirk falters. "A misunderstanding, is it?" I flip to another page. "Because these bank records show systematic transfers from your business accounts to offshore holdings." Another page turn. "And these withdrawals? They line up perfectly with your trips to Vegas." His face darkens. "You've been talking to the prosecutor." Someone had to. I meet his gaze steadily. "Mom and Dad were too busy pledging their homes as collateral for your bond to realize what you've actually done." The smirk vanishes, replaced by something sharper. "You always were so perfect, weren't you? Never made a mistake." "Never needed anything?" I laugh, the sound sharp in the sterile hush. "That's what they told you, that I never needed anything." "But they gave you everything." "Harvard law," he snaps. "Connections. I worked 2 jobs through undergrad and took out $200,000 in loans for Harvard." I cut him off. "Those connections? I made them myself, while you were burning through your 3rd failed business on their dime." For the first time, uncertainty flickers in Tyler's eyes. They said, I know what they said. My voice stays level, though anger hums beneath it. They told you I was fine on my own while they wrote checks for your rent, your car, your bar, the same bar you used to run your little scheme. His gaze flicks to the guard, then back to me. His voice drops. You have to help me, May. You know people. You can make this go away. I pull out another sheet of paper. I already talked to the prosecutor about a plea deal. His eyes widen, genuine shock replacing his usual practiced charm. 18 months federal time with good behavior. 3 years supervised release. 6 months house arrest after prison. Full restitution. Tyler blinks rapidly, trying to process. 18 months? I can't. It's that, I say, closing the folder. Or risk 8 to 10 years at trial. The evidence is overwhelming. Even Mom and Dad finally understand that. He leans forward, palms flat against the counter, his voice slipping into the same wheedling tone that always worked on our parents. Remember when we were kids? How I covered for you when you snuck out to that concert junior year? You owe me. The manipulation is so obvious it almost makes me laugh. I was covering for you. You were the one sneaking out. I stayed home and told Mom and Dad you were asleep. His face falters. Well, what about when I stop? I raise my hand. This isn't about childhood favors. It's about $2.5 million. You stole from people who trusted you. Family, friends. Something shifts in his expression, the facade cracking. He leans closer to the glass, voice dropping to a whisper. Mom and Dad will lose everything because of me. For the first time, I glimpsed something real in his eyes. Not calculation. Not charm, fear, not for himself, for our parents. The revelation doesn't move me the way it once might have. You should have thought about that before you used their good name to lure investors. I was going to pay it all back. His voice catches. The market turned and then... Save it for the judge. I stand gathering my papers, that's it. You're just leaving? Panic sharpens his voice. I look down at him and see clearly the boy who was handed everything and still wanted more. You're pathetic. His mouth opens in shock. No one, especially not our parents, has ever spoken to him like this. May, wait. I turn, nodding to the officer that I'm finished. May. Tyler's voice bounces off the concrete walls as the heavy security door swings shut behind me, cutting him off. I walk through processing, past the metal detectors, out into the parking lot where September sunlight feels too bright after the sterile institution lighting. I grip the steering wheel until my knuckles blanch. Only then, in the privacy of tinted windows, do I let the tears fall. Not for Tyler, but for the little girl who practiced piano for hours, desperate for her parents' notice. For the teenager who won debate championships to empty chairs. For the law student who crossed the graduation stage without family applause. These tears aren't sadness. They burn hot with something sharper, cleaner. For the first time, I've stopped chasing what should have been freely given. And it feels like freedom. I start the engine, wiping my eyes. Tyler made his choices. Now I'm making mine. The next day, the attic smells like dust and forgotten promises. Light slants through a narrow window, catching motes that swirl as I shift boxes labeled in my mother's precise handwriting. I sneeze, wiping my nose on the sleeve of my Chicago law firm sweatshirt. One faded box, shoved behind Christmas decorations and old tax returns, reads May, Achievements. I drag it out, cardboard scraping across the wooden floor. Inside lies my discarded life. My valedictorian medal tangled in ornament hooks. Academic awards folded and creased. My Harvard Law acceptance letter tucked beneath broken tinsel. I lift the medal, its ribbon frayed. Downstairs, Tyler's baseball trophies gleam on custom shelves. May, are you up there? Mom's voice floats up. Lunch is ready. The lawyer you recommended is coming at 2. I steady my voice. I'll be down in a minute. She appears at the top of the stairs, hovering. What are you doing with all that old stuff? I hold up the medal. Just wondering why my valedictorian medal is stuffed in a box with ornaments while Tyler's participation trophies have their own display case. Her face falters. We meant to put those things out. We just never got around to it. 15 years. She fidgets with her wedding ring. Your father's on the phone with the financial advisor. He's trying to liquidate some investments for Tyler's defense fund. Of course he is. I turn back to the box. I'll be down soon. She lingers before retreating downstairs. Under a stack of honor roll certificates, I finally find what I came for: the family's financial records. Dad always kept meticulous records. I pull out folder after folder, arranging them chronologically across the dusty floor. The evidence spreads before me like a prosecutor's exhibit. College tuition, $175,000 for me. $230,000 for Tyler, despite him dropping out twice. First car, $2,000. A used Corolla for me. $21,000. A brand new Jeep for Tyler. Housing assistance, $0 for me during my divorce and flood. $60,000 for Tyler's bar venture, plus 3 separate rent bailouts. I close my eyes, inhaling the musty attic air, then gather the most damning documents and descend the stairs. Halfway down, I freeze at the sound of my parents' voices in the kitchen. She's been up there for hours, Mom whispers. Leave her be, Dad replies. She's always been the strong one. She'll come around. But what if she doesn't help? Richard, we could lose everything. She will. She's never let us down. I lean against the wall, documents clutched to my chest. Never let them down. They've never even seen me. I step into the kitchen, placing the financial records on the table. I've scheduled someone to meet us at 6. Mom brightens. Another attorney? A family therapist? Dr. Sanderson. Dad's coffee cup clatters against its saucer. We don't need therapy. We need legal help. You'll get both. But therapy is non-negotiable. This is ridiculous, Dad mutters. Your brother is facing prison, I answer. And you're facing the consequences of decades of favoritism. I tap the financial records. These are my terms. At 6 sharp, Dr. Sanderson arrives. A woman with silver-streaked hair and sharp, discerning eyes. I arrange chairs in a circle beneath the wall of Tyler's photographs. Thank you for coming on such short notice, I say, offering her water. Your situation sounded urgent. She settles into her chair just as my parents enter, faces tight with reluctance. Let's begin by discussing family patterns, she suggests after introductions. Mom jumps in. We were a very close family. Or we were, until May moved to Chicago. I slide my spreadsheet to the center of the circle. I've documented the financial support disparity between Tyler and me. Dad frowns, picking up the sheet. What is this? My voice stays calm, professional, the same tone I use with difficult clients. You've given Tyler approximately $437,000. I received $8,500. Mom's face flushes. That's not fair. You had scholarships? I worked 3 jobs through law school. I lived in a basement apartment with black mold. When my condo flooded 6 months ago, you said you couldn't help with $12,000 for temporary housing. 2 days later, you were on a chartered fishing boat with Tyler, celebrating his $60,000 business venture. Dad studies the spreadsheet, hands trembling. This isn't just about money, I continue. It's about the piano recitals you missed, the graduations you left early, the achievements you brushed aside. We gave Tyler more because he needed it, Mom bursts out, tears spilling. The room falls silent. And what about what I needed? I ask softly. Dad closes the spreadsheet. For the first time in my life, he looks truly at a loss. This is good, Dr. Sanderson says gently. Hard, but good. Let's talk about what each of you needed that you didn't receive. As the session continues, I lay out my conditions. I will recommend attorneys. I will consult on the case, but I will not pay a dime toward Tyler's defense. And we continue therapy. All of us, including Tyler, once he's able to join. After Dr. Sanderson leaves, I remain in the living room. From my briefcase, I remove my childhood piano competition trophy, the state championship my parents missed for Tyler's baseball game. With deliberate care, I set it on the mantel beside Tyler's photographs. It looks small there, but it's a start. On Thursday, the federal courthouse looms like a stone monument to consequence. Reporters cluster at the entrance, cameras poised like predators, scenting blood in the water. I adjust my charcoal jacket, straighten my spine, and feel my parents shuffling behind me, smaller versions of who they once were. "Remember what we discussed?" I murmur without looking back. "Let the attorney handle everything." Mom's hand flutters toward mine but doesn't quite land. "May, please. There must be something else you could do." The word comes out sharper than I intend. I soften. We've been over this. Our defense attorney knows these federal cases. Dad clears his throat. "Your mother only meant—" I know what she meant. At the courthouse doors. I pause. U.S. Marshals lead a handcuffed figure up the steps. Tyler. His orange jumpsuit has been replaced with an ill-fitting gray suit that hangs loose on his frame. The trademark smirk is gone, replaced by something rare on his face. Fear. A reporter shoves a microphone forward. "Mr. and Mrs. Evans, how do you feel about your son?" I step between them. No comment at this time. Inside, marble floors echo under our footsteps. The courtroom doors loom ahead, heavy as the weight I've carried for 33 years living in Tyler's shadow. The air smells of polish and dread. At the defense table, Attorney James Whitfield rises, his silver hair catching the fluorescent light. "May," he extends his hand. "Everything's in place for the plea agreement." Mom grips my arm. "Plea agreement? But what about a trial? You always said if someone is innocent—" "He's not innocent, Mom," I whisper, guiding her toward the bench. "That's why we're here." The marshals seat Tyler and his eyes lock onto mine. Something passes between us, a recognition, a finality. He's spent his life believing he was the exception. Today, he learns otherwise. The bailiff calls the court to order. Judge Harmon enters, black robes sweeping authority into the room. We rise, then sit. Mom leans in. "May, you could still talk to the judge." "You're respected. Explain. Say it was all a misunderstanding." "That would be misconduct," I whisper back. "And it wouldn't work." Dad adds, "But your connections are not for sale," I cut him off. "Not even for Tyler." Tyler's gaze pleads from the defense table. I shake my head. The weight of his expectations and my parents' desperate hope presses against my chest. But I won't bend now. The prosecutor rises, a compact woman whose plain looks disguise the steel in her voice. "Your Honor, the United States has evidence proving beyond reasonable doubt that the defendant, Tyler Evans, defrauded investors of approximately $2.5 million through wire fraud and false statements." She outlines the scheme in clinical detail. But when the first victim takes the stand, the air drains from the room. An elderly man with gnarled hands grips the rail. "I invested my retirement savings because he was Richard Evans's son. Said his father taught him business ethics." Dad flinches. Mom stifles a sob. Another victim follows, a woman whose children's college funds disappeared into Tyler's pockets. "He showed me family photos," she testifies. "Said I could trust the Evans name." I watch my parents' faces as realization sets in. Tyler hasn't only destroyed himself. He's dragged their name through the mud, using it as bait to lure the trusting. When Tyler finally stands before Judge Harmon, he looks smaller, diminished. "The court accepts your plea of guilty to one count of wire fraud," the judge declares. "In accordance with the agreement, I sentence you to 18 months in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release, including 6 months of home detention, and immediate restitution payments upon release." The gavel cracks down. Tyler glances back at us, his expression a tangled mix of resentment and reluctant respect as his eyes meet mine. I give him a small nod. 18 months instead of 10 or more years. Given the evidence, this is the best possible outcome. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarm like vultures, microphones jutting in from every direction. Dad steps forward, clearing his throat. My son made a terrible mistake, but I move beside him, cutting off what I know would become excuses. The Evans family acknowledges the harm done to the victims, I say firmly. Tyler is taking responsibility for his actions. The plea deal includes full restitution for those affected by his crimes. Dad blinks at me, momentarily stunned by my interruption. Mom's trembling hand slips into mine. That simple gesture carries volumes. An acknowledgement, perhaps, that I'm no longer the afterthought. No further questions, I add, turning from the cameras. We descend the courthouse steps, the autumn sun warm despite the chill. For the first time in memory, my parents follow several paces behind me, their footsteps hesitant on the stone. I don't look back. The weight on my shoulders feels different now. No longer the burden of being overlooked, but the responsibility of being seen, of finally being heard. A year later, I arrange crimson chrysanthemums in a crystal vase, sunlight catching the diamond on my left hand. The kitchen smells of cinnamon and sage, warmth radiating beyond temperature. Lucas moves behind me, his surgeon's hands confident as he bastes the turkey. Your parents should be here any minute, he says, pressing a kiss to my temple. Nervous? Surprisingly, no. I adjust a stubborn bloom. It all feels different now. The doorbell chimes through my Chicago home, my sanctuary that finally feels like one. I smooth my burgundy sweater and open the door to faces subtly changed. Mom's hair is more silver, Dad's shoulders less rigid. I found your old piano music in the attic, Mom says, handing me a familiar leather portfolio. Thought you'd want it back. Dad passes Lucas a bottle of wine. We drove past your firm on the way in. That Johnson case you mentioned last month. I saw in the Tribune you won. Spectacular work. I accept both the music and the compliment with equal surprise, ushering them into a living room filled with photos. Mine, Lucas's, and even a few of Tyler's sharing equal space on the shelves. Over appetizers, Mom talks about their recent move. The smaller place suits us better. Easier to manage now that we're retired. Your father volunteers 3 days a week at the community college, she says, pride in her voice. Financial literacy for first-gen college students, Dad adds with a self-deprecating smile. Might have made our retirement a little smoother if someone had taught us back then. When Lucas asks about Tyler, there's a pause, but not the frantic mobilization his name used to trigger. His letters come regularly, Mom says softly. The last one even asked about your work. Dad nods. He mentioned your foundation idea. Said he might have some insights when he's out next spring. We moved to the dining table. Dishes Lucas and I prepared together laid out in abundance. Crystal glasses catch the glow of tapered candles. The scene couldn't be more different from last Thanksgiving, spent alone in my office reviewing contracts. Before we eat, Lucas suggests that maybe we each share something we're grateful for this year. When my turn comes, I let the silence linger. Looking around at these faces gathered at my table, Lucas, whose patience taught me what real partnership means, my parents, who finally see me, even Tyler's absence feels like a step forward, a family dynamic rebalanced. I'm thankful for second chances, I say at last, and for hard truths. Lucas squeezes my hand under the table, a quiet acknowledgement of the journey. Later, as Mom helps me pack leftovers, she pauses, eyes glistening. I always thought you were strong, that you didn't need us the way Tyler did. Her voice falters. I was wrong about so many things. After dinner, I mentioned my plans for a legal foundation focused on family financial abuse cases. Instead of steering the conversation back to Tyler, Dad asks thoughtful questions about structure and funding. When we take a family photo for this year's holiday card, I notice how naturally we arrange ourselves, not orbiting around a golden sun anymore, but standing as equals. Night falls early in November. After my parents retreat to the guest room and Lucas showers, I stand alone at my living room window. Snow begins to fall, delicate flakes glowing in the streetlights. My reflection in the glass shows the woman I've become, layered with shadows of who I once was, the afterthought daughter always chasing validation. I place my palm against the cool glass, watching frost spread around my fingertips. Some things break, I whisper to no one and everyone, so that stronger things can grow.